Good morning. As I contemplated my topic for my speech, I hit a dead end and ran out of gas. My first instinct was to ask Jacob, but as usual, he was being too cool. So I called my mom, and like all moms do, she came in clutch. She gave me a great idea. She said, with no hesitation, why don't you incorporate that poem you wrote into your speech and share how it reflects your life at Brooks and in the world? I didn't even second guess her suggestion. The poem was titled, Three Things I Will Teach My Black Son. Today, I'm sharing with you an edited version called Three Things I Will Teach My Black Son at Brooks. And with the tradition of chapel speeches and kind of to show the significance of my speech, here's me as a baby and what my son might look like in the future. First lesson. It's a cold world out there. Most people you encounter, they don't really care. All they want to do from you is take from you, and then when you've accomplished that goal, they go. So my first words are to you, don't be fooled by the ones who say they care, because when you need them the most, they might disappear. Now, that might sound a little depressing or sad because I just basically said, do not trust people, because all they want to do is take from you and try to use your gifts. And when they can no longer take from you, they move on to someone else who accomplishes this goal. The thing about it, though, to some extent, we all know that this is true. I feel it is most important to focus on yourself. Make sure that you're comfortable in your own skin. Trust your abilities. If you are able to trust in your abilities, the time will come and you will feel certain that you can trust in other people as well. At Brooks School, there are people who I believe fit this description. The one person I would have to single out would have to be Jalen Cromwell. First time Jay and I met, it was preseason of freshman year. We were both playing football. I had came to the gym late, and I walked into the locker room. I walked into the first alcove and sat next to a glasses-wearing, thick-bearded, short-haired kid from Boston. To be completely honest, I thought the kid was a senior. I had never seen a 15-year-old with a full-grown beard in my life. We didn't say a word to each other at first. Then as we sat down, putting our things into our locker, Will Ghibli, who was a sophomore at the time, and if you didn't know, was really enthusiastic about football, he began doing a little dance and greeted Jalen and I with a loud, "Let's go," before putting on his athletic wear. I had just came from middle school, and Jalen, even though he was a repeat, he didn't know the high school locker room scene. So at first, this was a little weird to us. Jay and I remember this moment exactly because we both looked at each other, shocked, knowing that for the rest of the season, this is what we're up for. Even though that's not the ideal first day welcome, it was memorable. The events that occurred in the boys' locker room that day blessed me with one of my best friends ever, and I am thankful to have a person in my corner who can relate to basically anything I go through. Lesson number 2. Here's something that's true. You're going to have to work 10 times as hard as that white dude next to you. Yeah, you might be smarter, stronger, and more gifted, but no matter what, he has the upper hand. But nobody's skin color makes him a man. So you fight for everything you want. Don't let anyone, not even me, diminish in you the fire that burns. You have to earn every treasure. Nothing is given. That is a valuable part of living. I remember my sophomore year at Brooks. For anyone in this room that knows or has met my father, he likes to chat. My father and I were driving to school, and he felt like it was the right time to give me a life lesson. In the moment, I really did not want to hear what he had to say. I just wanted to take my nap and get back on campus. However, my father insisted on talking to me that day. He actually went out of his way to yell at me to turn off my music and take off my headphones. As I sat there, annoyed by him, he began to ask me how I was liking school and how my classes were going. I answered with the usual, good, yep, and a couple more one-word answers. The conversation continued, but then my dad told me something in the moment I didn't know the significance of. He said, Terrell, you know you're black, right? I answered back confused, yes, I know. He then went on to say these words to me. As you strive to do your best, you must remain respectful of all men, but never afraid to speak up for yourself. Never afraid to stand up for what you believe in. Never afraid to speak your truth. The most important thing you have is your voice. The words that were spoke on that car ride were truly life-changing for me. They helped me to be able to express myself and not to worry about what other people's opinions were of me. His advice also helped me find another way to speak my mind. That way was through poetry. Poetry became a part of my life in Mr. Charpentier's sophomore English class. Our final project was to do something creative that depicted the books we chose to read that spring term. I chose to focus on Ant Hills of the Savannah by Chinua Achebe, but I drew a blank when having to decide what to do for my assignment. Unsure of how it would turn out, I tossed up the idea of incorporating poetry into the project. This is where my love for poetry revealed itself, and I added another layer to my identity. I used poetry to find my voice. Any instance that I could improve on my poetry or just read one of my pieces, I took advantage of. When junior year came around, I was ready to take on the identity of Terrell Brown, student, athlete, and poet. Recall the second lesson, my words about how you fight for everything you want and earn every treasure, nothing is given. These particular words reflect my basketball career at Brooks. I'm a very competitive person, and in coming to this school, my goal was to make an impact on the team and become one of those star-studded freshmen I had watched on YouTube throughout my middle school years. Everyone in the senior class knows that this was not the outcome whatsoever. I sat on the bench my freshman year with no significant minutes. But hey, I was just a freshman, right? The only freshman on varsity. I was going to be one of the main pieces on my team sophomore year. Well, tough luck. It happened again, on the bench. At this point, I felt like I should quit. There were times where I didn't even want to touch a basketball because I thought I wasn't good enough to play the sport that I loved. Junior year, I wasn't sure what the team would be like at all, but I did know that it was time for me to stop blaming other people and just look at myself. I met with Coach McVeigh, and I asked him what I needed to do to be able to make an impact on the team. He told me straight up, and I began working on what I needed to improve and perfecting what I could. Needless to say, my junior year ended well, and my senior year was even better. This was because I never stopped working. Mornings, Jacob and I would wake up early and shoot. Brian talking smack to me saying that I couldn't shoot. Coach Jones watching film with me after every game, teaching me what to see on the court. And Coach McVeigh for never losing faith in me and always letting me know that I was good enough. Encouragement came from so many more people. Keep working for the things you love, no matter how hard the circumstances, because the best feeling in the world, to me, has been overcoming adversity and finding success. Lesson number 3. Don't worry, we're almost done. But this one, I'm gonna need all your attention. because this one has to do with a man with a gun. Word of advice, don't run. It just gives them an excuse to shoot. And this one's hard for me to explain, but there's no way out. You could be walking with all your friends, and they'll find a way to single you out. Be aware of how you carry yourself. Be respectful. Please, no cussing out your mouth. Because if anything seems out of place in their eyes, well, my son, that could be your life. Because all hell breaks loose when they choose to fire. And no matter how innocent you are in the moment, those people are going to lie. And they won't care that you died. This is an event that a lot of people don't know, but it occurred the summer of my freshman year. I had plans with my friends from Lowell to go to the folk festival that happens every summer. It was hot out, and all my friends said we're going to ride our bikes and meet at the subway near the entrance of the festival. So I hopped on my bike and was riding down the street. I just stopped to talk to one of my friends who had just came from the festival. We said our goodbyes, and I was on my way. All of a sudden, a cop car pulled up in front of my bike. A police officer stepped out of the car, and he grabbed my bike. I was so confused at what was happening. He then began to relay a message to his partners on the radio, saying, "We found the suspect, 18-year-old black male. If you could understand the fear in my body in that moment, you would be scared too." I had no words. I tried telling the officer that I was only 14 years old and I hadn't done anything wrong because I hadn't. The person they were looking for was an 18-year-old black male with something around his neck, riding a bike. I was black. I had my Brooks lanyard around my neck, and like I said, I was on my bike. I was told by the officer, excuse my language, "Get the fuck off the fucking bike right now." I tried, and he was still holding onto my handlebars. He then shoved me off the bike, pushed my face against the pavement, and handcuffed me. I was crying more than I've ever cried in my life. 10 minutes passed, and his partner came to him and told him that he was wrong. She asked me, how old was I? And I forced out under all my crying, "I'm only 14. She was shocked and uncuffed me. The male officer said to me, "Get on your bike and stay out of trouble." That was it. I told this story not for anyone to feel bad for me that I got handcuffed, but to realize that at Brooks School, we are really secluded from the outside world. We don't know what other people really go through when they aren't on this campus. We don't know the struggles or problems they face when they go home. I was fortunate enough not to let this event change my life for the worse, but rather help me understand the world I live in outside of Brooks, and when I leave here, I have to be ready for that. So I've given these lessons to you. It's now up to you to follow through. I know it's a lot of what not to do, but here's something you should do. Live, love, and learn. And when you've come to the end, be able to look back on your life with no regret. Son, this I pray, you never forget. Thank you.